This is day 7 of the February 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. We will read from writings by Wang Po and Krishnamurti. The Wang Po book is called The Zen Teaching of Wang Po, translated by John Blofeld. Since these are copyrighted materials, the recording is not for sale. The selections from Wang Po, which we've read frequently, are not meant to be a presentation of Wang Po. These are excerpts from sections, paragraphs with words, sometimes sentences omitted for the sake of clarity. The word Buddha, as used by Wang Po, does not just refer to the historical personage of Gautama Buddha, but to the awakened mind or truth, absolute truth. To become Buddha, meaning to become an enlightened being. The Master said to me, these are recorded by the disciple of Wang Po, who was a Buddhist scholar and also governor of the province where Wang Po resided and taught in the 10th century, I believe, between the 9th and the 10th century in China. The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow and has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there is no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it, for that is using the Buddha to seek for the Buddha, and using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain to it. People do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, the Buddha will appear before them. Before this mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. As to performing the 6 parameters, these are in Buddhism the good works, and the footnote says charity, morality, patience under affliction, zealous application, right control of mind, and the application of the highest wisdom. As to performing these and vast numbers of similar practices, or gaining merits as countless as the sands of the Ganges, since you are fundamentally complete in every respect, You should not try to supplement that perfection by such meaningless practices. When there is occasion for them, perform them, and when the occasion is past, remain quiescent. If you're attached to forms, practices, and meritorious performances, your way of thinking is false and quite incompatible with the way. The mind is the Buddha, nor are there any other Buddhas or any other mind. It is bright and spotless as the void, having no form or appearance whatever. To practice the 6 parameters and a myriad similar practices with the intention of becoming a Buddha, thereby is to advance by stages. But the ever-existent Buddha is not a Buddha of stages. Only awake to the one mind, and there is nothing whatsoever to be attained. This is the real Buddha. Mind is like the void in which there is no confusion or evil. As when the sun wheels through it, shining upon the 4 corners of the world. For when the sun rises and illuminates the whole earth, the void gains not in brilliance, and when the sun sets, the void does not darken. The phenomena of light and dark alternate with each other, but the nature of the void remains unchanged. So it is with the mind of Buddha and sentient beings. If you look upon the Buddha as presenting a pure, bright, or enlightened appearance, or upon sentient beings as presenting a foul, dark, or mortal-seeming appearance, these conceptions resulting from attachment to form will keep you from supreme knowledge, even after the passing of as many eons as there are sands in the Ganges. There is only one mind, and not a particle of anything else on which to lay hold. For this mind is the Buddha. If you students of the way do not awake to this mind's substance, you will overlay mind with conceptual thought. You will seek the Buddha outside yourselves, and you will remain attached to forms, pious practices, and so on, all of which are harmful and not at all the way to supreme knowledge. Needless to say, knowledge here does not refer to thought, book knowledge, memory, so forth. In ancient times, or in the translations of what was written in Chinese, the word knowledge was used in 2 ways. Our original nature is, in highest truth, devoid of any atom of objectivity. It is void, omnipresent, silent, pure. It is glorious and mysterious, peaceful joy, and that is all. Enter deeply into it by awakening to it yourself. That which is before you is it, in all its fullness, utterly complete. There is naught beside. Even if you would go through all the stages of progress toward Buddhahood one by one, when at last, in the single flash, you attain to realization, you will only be realizing that which has been with you all the time. And by all the foregoing stages, you will have added to it nothing at all. You will come to look upon those eons of work and achievement as no better than unreal actions performed in a dream. What is called supreme perfect wisdom implies that there is really nothing whatever to be attained. If you're able to understand this, you will realize that the way of the Buddhas and the way of the devils are equally wide of the mark. The original pure glistening universe is neither square nor round, big nor small. It is without any such distinctions as long and short. It is beyond attachment and activity, ignorance and enlightenment. You must see clearly that there is really nothing at all. The great chili-cosms, numberless as grains of sand, are mere bubbles. All wisdom and all holiness are but streaks of lightning. None of them have the reality of mind. Mind is one. How can it lack a single hair of anything? Once I put this question to the Master: how many of the 400 or 500 persons gathered here on this mountain have fully understood your Reverence's teaching? The Master answered, their number cannot be known. Why? Because this way is through mind awakening. How can it be conveyed in words? Speech only produces some effect when it falls on the uninstructed ears of children. When we talk of the knowledge I may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living, our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of demons. So, full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branchings here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. And Pessu says, at this very moment, all sorts of erroneous thoughts are constantly flowing through our minds. How can you speak of our having none? Wang Po, error has no substance. It is entirely the product of your own thinking. Yesterday in a group meeting, someone said, I always feel as though I've done something wrong, but maybe thinking that I have done something wrong is my problem. He says, error has no substance. It is entirely the product of your own thinking. If you see that mind is fundamentally without error, whenever thoughts arise, you will be fully convinced that they are responsible for errors. If you could prevent all conceptual movements of thought and still your thinking processes, naturally there would be no error left in you. Because this brings the temptation of start methods to still the thinking process. Some technique to produce stillness, and then there is error left. Therefore it is said, when thoughts arise, then do all things arise. When thoughts vanish, then do all things vanish. Though others may talk of the way of the Buddhas as something to be reached by various pious practices and by scripture study, you must have nothing to do with such ideas. A perception, sudden as blinking, that subject and object are one, will lead to a deeply mysterious, wordless understanding. And by this understanding you will awake to the truth. When you happen upon someone who has no understanding, you must claim to know nothing. He may be delighted by his discovery of some way to enlightenment, yet if you allow yourselves to be persuaded by him, you will experience no delight at all, but suffer both sorrow and disappointment. Even if you do obtain from him some trifling method, it will only be a thought-constructed thing having nothing to do with truth. Truth is something never lost even in moments of delusion, nor is it gained at the moment of enlightenment. In it is neither delusion nor right understanding. It depends on nothing, and it is attached to nothing. It is all-pervading, spotless beauty. It is the self-existent and uncreated absolute. Ah, it is a jewel beyond all price. But how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that, asks Pesu and Wang Po? By realizing that, though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also, by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other, do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has gone, the present is a fleeting moment, the future is yet to come. When you practice meditation, sit in the proper position, stay perfectly tranquil, and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. This alone is what is called liberation. Ah, be diligent, be diligent. Here are two selections from questions and answers written during 79 and 80 by Krishnamurti. This came out of the Krishnamurti Foundation, India. Question. When I listen to you, there is an urgency to change. When I return home, it fades. What am I to do? What are you to do? Is the urgency to change due to or influenced by the speaker? While you're here, you are driven into a corner, but when you leave, that is no longer so. It means that you're being challenged, influenced, driven, persuaded, and when that is gone, you are where you were. Now, what is one to do? Please let us think out the right answer to this. What is one to do? I come to this gathering from a distant place. It is a lovely day. I have put up a tent and I'm really interested. I have read not only what the speaker has said, but a great deal besides. I know the Christian and the Buddhist concepts, the Hindu mythology, and I've also done different forms of meditation, the TM, the Tibetan, the Hindu and Buddhist. But I am dissatisfied with all those, so I come here and I listen. Now, am I prepared to listen completely? I cannot listen completely if I bring all my knowledge here with me. I cannot listen or learn or comprehend completely if I belong to some sect, if I'm attached to one particular concept, and if I also want to add to that what is said here. I must come, if I'm serious, with a free mind, with a mind that says, let's find out, not I want to add what you're saying to what I already know. So what is one's attitude going to be? The speaker has been saying constantly, freedom is absolutely necessary. Psychological freedom first, not the physical freedom which you have in the democratic, if not in the totalitarian countries. Inward freedom can only come about when one understands one's conditioning, the conditioning which is both social and cultural, religious, economic, and physical. Can one be free of that, of the psychological conditioning? Me first, everybody else second. What is difficult in all this is that we cling to something so deeply that we are unwilling to let go. One has studied various things and one is attracted to a particular psychological school. One has gone into it, studied it, and found out that there's a great deal in it, and so one sticks to it. And then one comes here and listens and adds what one has heard to that. So it all becomes a mélange, a mixture of everything. Are we not doing that? Our minds become very confused. And for the time being, when you're here, that confusion is somewhat pushed away or diminished. But when you leave, it is back again. Can one be aware of this confusion? Not only while you are here, but when you are at home. That is much more important. So what does all this indicate? We have the intelligence to solve technological problems, the problem-solving mind. We all have that, but it is not intelligence. The capacity to think clearly, objectively, and to be aware of the limitations of thinking, that is the beginning of intelligence. We worship thinking. The more cleverly we can think, the greater we see ourselves as being. Whereas, if we could observe our own confusion, our own individual, narrow way of looking at life, if we could be aware of all that, we would see how thought is perpetually creating problems. Thought creates the image, and that image divides. To see that requires intelligence. To see psychological dangers is intelligence. But apparently we do not see those things. That means somebody has to goad you all the time, push you, drive you, ask you, persuade you, beg you to make yourself aware of yourself. and then to move from there, not just to stay there. And I'm afraid nobody is going to do that for you, not even the most enlightened human being, because then you become his slave. Vitality, physical and psychological energy is, as you are now, being dissipated in conflict, in worry, in chattering, in endless gossip, not only with others, but with oneself. This endless chattering. It dissipates the psychological energy that is needed to observe ourselves in the mirror of relationship. We are all related to somebody or other, and so discover our illusions, images, absurdities, and idiocies. Then, out of that observation comes freedom and the intelligence which will show the way of life. Question. You say we are the world, but the majority of the world seem to be heading for mass destruction. Can a minority of integrated people outweigh the majority? Okay. Are we that minority? Is there one among us who is totally free of all this? Or are we partially contributing to the hatred of each other psychologically? You may not be able to stop one country attacking another, but psychologically, are you free of your common inheritance, which is your tribal, glorified nationalism? Are we free from violence? Violence exists where there is a wall around ourselves. Do please understand all this. And we have built ourselves walls 15 feet high and 10 feet thick. All of us have these walls around us. From that arises violence and this sense of immense loneliness. So the minority and the majority are you. If a group of us have psychologically transformed ourselves fundamentally, we will never ask this question, because we are then something entirely different. Here's one brief selection from Authentic Report of 10 Talks given by Krishnamurti in Ojai, 1944. That was one year before the Second World War ended. Questioner. You said a man who meets anger with anger becomes anger. Do you mean that when we fight cruelty with the weapons of cruelty, we too become the enemy? Yet if we do not protect ourselves, the bandit fells us. Okay. Surely that thing which you fight, you become. If I am angry and you meet me with anger, what is the result? More anger. You have become that which I am. If I am evil and you fight me with evil means, then you also become evil, however righteous you may feel. If I am brutal and you use brutal methods to overcome me, then you become brutal like me. And this we have done for thousands of years. Surely there is a different approach than to meet hate by hate. If I use violent methods to quell anger in myself, then I am using wrong means for a right end, and thereby the right end ceases to be. I'll read that again. If I use violent methods to quell anger in myself, then I'm using wrong means for a right end, and thereby the right end ceases to be. In this there is no understanding. There is no transcending anger. Anger is to be studied tolerantly and understood. It is not to be overcome through violent means. Anger may be the result of many causes, and without comprehending them, there is no escape from anger. We have created the enemy, the bandit, and through becoming ourselves the enemy, in no way brings about an end to enmity. We have to understand the cause of enmity and cease to feed it by our thought, feeling, and action. This is an arduous task, demanding constant self-awareness and intelligent pliability. For what we are, the society, the state is. The enemy and the friend are the outcome of our thought and action. We are responsible for creating enmity, and so it is more important to be aware of our own thought and action than to be concerned with the foe and the friend, for right thinking puts an end to division. Love transcends the friend and the enemy. The two selections taken from Krishnamurti's notebook. Which was written, I guess it doesn't say here, throughout 69, 63. These two selections are written in India. This is on a flight to Bombay. The sea far below, nearly 40,000 feet below, seemed to be without a wave, so calm, so vast, so empty of any movement. The desert, the burning red hills, treeless, beautiful, and pitiless. More sea, and the distant lights of the town where all the passengers were getting down. The clamor, the mountain of bags, inspection, and the long drive through ill-lit streets, and the pavement crowded with ever-increasing population. The many penetrating odors, the shrill voices, the decorated temples, cars festooned with flowers, for it was a day of festival, the rich houses, the dark slums, and down a steep incline, the car stopped and the door was opened. There is a tree full of green, bright leaves, very quiet in its purity and dignity, surrounded by houses that are ill-proportioned, with people that have never looked at it or one single leaf of it. But they make money, go to offices, drink, beget children, and eat enormously. There was a moon over it last night, and all the splendid darkness was alive. And waking towards dawn, meditation was the splendor of light, for the otherness was there in an unfamiliar room. Again, it was an imminent and urgent peace, not the peace of politicians or of the priests, nor of the contented. It was too vast to be contained in space and time, to be formulated by thought or feeling. It was the weight of the earth and the things upon it. It was the heavens and beyond it. Man has to cease for it to be. Time is always repeating its challenge and its problems. The responses and answers are concerned with the immediate. We are taking up with the immediate challenge and with the immediate reply to it. This immediate answer to the immediate call is worldliness, with all its indissoluble problems and agonies. The intellectual answers with action born of ideas which have their roots in time, in the immediate, and the thoughtless, amazed follow that. The priest of the well-organized religion of propaganda and belief responds to the challenge according to what he has been taught. The rest follow the pattern of like and dislike. In every argument and gesture is the continuity of despair, sorrow, and confusion. There's no end to it. To turn your back on it all, calling this activity by different names, is not to end it. It is there whether you deny it or not, whether you have critically analyzed it or whether you say the whole thing is an illusion, Maya. It is there, and you're always measuring it. It is these immediate answers to a series of immediate calls that has to come to an end. Then you will answer from the emptiness of no time to the immediate demand of time, or you may not answer at all, which may be the true response. All reply of thought and emotion will only prolong the despair and the agony of problems that have no answers. The final answer is beyond the immediate. In the immediate is all your hope, vanity, and ambition, whether that immediacy is projected into the future of many tomorrows or in the now. This is the way of sorrow. The ending of sorrow is never in the immediate response to the many challenges. The ending lies in seeing this fact. Across the river, smoke was going up in a straight column. It was a simple movement, bursting into the sky. There wasn't a breath of air. There wasn't a ripple on the river, and every leaf was still. The parrots were the only noisy movement as they flashed by. Even the little fisherman's boat did not disturb the water. Everything seemed to have frozen in stillness, except the smoke. Even though it was going so straight up in the sky, there was a certain gaiety in it and freedom of total action. And beyond the village and the smoke was the glowing sky of the evening. It had been a cool day, and the sky had been open, and there was the light of 1,000 winters. It was short, penetrating, and expansive. It went with you everywhere. It wouldn't leave you. Like perfume, it was in the most unexpected places. It seemed to have entered into the most secret corners of one's being. It was a light that left no shadow, and every shadow lost its depth. Because of it, all substance lost its density. It was as though you looked through everything, through the trees on the other side of the wall, through your own self. Yourself was as transparent as the sky and as open. It was intense, and to be with it was to be passionate, not the passion of feeling or desire, but a passion that would never wither or die. It was a strange light. It exposed everything and made vulnerable. And what had no protection was love. You couldn't be what you were burnt out, without leaving any ashes, and unexpectedly, there was not a thing but that light. We will end here for today.